This is Joy Foote. Welcome to Pine Mountain, then and now. Surprise! Today I'm releasing a bonus episode. It's an interview with John Willis, the 2024 Citizen of the Year. John does so much for Pine Mountain, and with his recent award, I thought it would be great if everyone heard about both the charitable and fun things he does for our town. Before I get into the interview, I want to tell you about two things that are coming up that you won't want to miss. The first is Our Town Trivia. Just like the name suggests, Our Town Trivia is a trivia game about our town, Pine Mountain. Friends and neighbors get together at a local restaurant, have lunch, and enjoy a game while learning about our town. So join us on Tuesday, January 21st at 11:30 a.m. at Unique Expressions. It's free to play, and lunch is Dutch treat. And as a plus, all the trivia questions will come from my podcast episodes since October 30th, so you have a great chance to win. The second event I want to share with you is the super fun and wildly popular Taste of Pine Mountain. This is such a fun night where the restaurants and merchants team up so you can shop, listen to live music, and eat delicious tapas as you stroll through downtown. You won't want to miss it. It's on Friday, January 31st at 6 p.m. Get your tickets before everything is sold out at www.harriscountychamber.org. Welcome, John Willis, to the show. I really appreciate you being on here, and just definitely appreciate your contribution to Pine Mountain so much. And I am doing a special episode this month because I wanted to talk to you about the Citizen of the Year award that you were recently awarded. And I think it's the first time, right, John, that they've had Citizen of the Year in recent memory. I don't recall them doing it before.
That is correct. As far as the town doing it, that is correct.
Yeah. And then once it was a nomination process, and then you received the award, and then you got to be the MC in the Christmas parade. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ride with Santa Claus?
No, actually, they had a car. Judy Hawk donated the use. She had a 1963 T-Bird convertible,
Mm,
and which is kind of appropriate because I was born in 1963, and
nice.
so I got to ride in that, and that was a lot of fun and kind of lead the parade. It was very cool.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I want to dig in a little bit, and I want to get to know more about you, and I'm sure the town does also. What made you decide to get so involved in Pine Mountain?
Um, Joe, I guess, and thank you for having me. And I'm honored to be with you today. I've always been just a small town kind of person. I mean, I'm not about big cities or metropolitan or living in a loft apartment in Midtown or something like that. And so it appealed to me. I say to my coworkers all the time that I'm blessed to work with, I say, why would I live anywhere else? Because there's just so many good things that happen here. Um, I was born and raised in Florida. A lot of my family down there. So, but got here as quick as I could. Met a girl. I went to school in Tifton, Georgia, at ABAC for 2 years, and met a girl there. And as the country music singer Tom T. Hall said one time, "Mighty is the power of the skirt." And so, she went on to Georgia Tech. She's the brains of our relationship, and I went on to University of Florida. We continued to date, and then she got out of school a year ahead of me, and we ended up in Pine Mountain. And I think we both come from families that get involved. She was an athlete. She was actually on a basketball scholarship at ABAC when we met and started dating, and she'd played softball her entire life in addition to that and other sports. Um, I was not an athlete. I'd always worked and put myself through school that way. But as so we're both a little ways away. She was from originally from South Georgia. I'm originally from Florida. And so we're away from our extended families, you know. And so we got involved with the church, I think, first. Um, and that became our extended family. And so we did a lot with that. And then she got recruited by Fox McGee, who we recently lost, and that was a tragedy, and a great loss to our town because Fox was such a good guy with the youth sports. And my wife started doing some coaching and just helping out with the youth sports program. So, with both basketball and softball. And somewhere along that time, we started having children of our own. And we eventually ended up raising four children here in Pine Mountain. And we continued to stay involved with the youth sports, or she did. And then I started getting involved with the scout program. Um, I was fortunate enough to come up through a really, really good scouting program when I was a boy and had that as a model and tried to replicate that here. But so it just, and I feel like there's just one of if not the greatest strength of Pine Mountain to me is the people here. They're just such a great group of people that live here in Pine Mountain. Um, and I think it's easy to get involved if you want to because there's just a lot going on.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the scouts because
Okay.
I understand that you have leadership over the local Boy Scouts and you have just taken them to the next level. How many Eagle Scouts do we have in Pine Mountain? And I mean, I just want to understand a little bit more about it.
As I grew up and came through the scout program and became an Eagle Scout, I had a really good scout master that showed me um, how a good program should be run. And despite all the changes in society and cultural winds and everything else, I still am a firm believer that done well, scouting is just a great program and a great way to raise up leaders and better citizens and people. And so we since the scout troop, the local scout troop in Pine Mountain started, there's some records of it being around in the 20s. And I think during World War II it stopped, as a lot of things did, because of men being off to war. And then I think in 1945 maybe it started back again, and it's been continuously chartered every year since then. So we've got whatever that is, 75 years or whatever of continuous or plus of continuous chartering with our local troop. During that time, even though we're a fairly small town, per capita and stuff like that, we've had I think 70 Eagle Scouts that have attained that rank and earned that rank through our local troop.
Wow. That's amazing.
It is, and it's a process. It's not one of the things about earning Eagle Scout, just so you know, is it's about a 2 year process at best. I mean, if you hit every single mark, I think the shortest you could do it is about 2 years. So for your typical, 11 to 14 or 15-year-old boy that's used to, hey, I do something and then I get instant gratification. And this is something a little different, and it kind of challenges a lot of them to embark on a journey like that. But
Right.
we've had a lot of fun in our trip. We do a lot of over the top kind of extreme activities,
Oh,
and
do tell. I want to hear.
well, yeah, a lot of them, like, yeah, and that tends to keep. I mean, like we've done some rock climbing, in our troop level, which is I think we're the only troop anywhere around here that does that. We'll do whitewater rafting once a year. We do swim with the manatees. We've been to the Okefenokee. We've been down to the beach. We backpack. We've taken boys probably 7 or 8 times now up into Canada and done canoe camping up in the Quetico Provincial Park, which is part of Western Ontario. Um, we've had boys go to Philmont. We've had boys go to which is out in New Mexico. We've had boys National Jamboree, which has been in different places. So, and then we'll do stuff like we might, and this is some of these things are kind of outside the bounds of the guide to safe scouting, so I hesitate to articulate on a lot of it. But we'll put boys in a river, at midnight and canoe down a river. You know what I'm saying? Where you're doing that in the dark.
That
Okay.
sounds so great.
Well, and for, like I said, a 15, 16-year-old boy, we'll take the older
Mhm.
boys to do that. The ones that have swimming and life saving and some merit badges like that.
Well, And it gets them away from their phone and video
Oh my
games, which is
gosh.
such a challenge for parents these days
I know.
compared to when I was growing up. And I bet they love it. They're outside and they're having a great time and
Well, once they put that down, and we've been on trips. We did some caving a couple years ago on our way to summer camp. We did a caving expedition over in northeast Alabama, and we pulled in the camp and we'd let the boys be on the phones because we're on the bus and we're just between a couple places and we're talking. But we got there and we're starting to set up camp, and one of the parents and I are watching the boys, and they're like, they're on their phones and stuff. I said, no, 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 this is not going to work.
Mhm.
So we pulled them. I said, hey, and I collected all the phones. And the next thing you know, they're talking to each other, they're interacting with each other, they're playing games, the things you want them to do.
Right. That's great.
But like I said, Pine Mountain has been so supportive in the community support for our scout program. I know there's probably communities and probably cities and towns and stuff like that where scouting is like, really, you're a Boy Scout, and they look down on it. But there, I feel like we're almost in an insulated bubble here in Pine Mountain where it's still, hey man, that's a great program. You're having a lot of fun. You're doing stuff. We do some good things. We've got a good brand here, so to speak. That we've established over the years. We've done a lot of really really cool Eagle projects in the past 10 years. Some major stuff. That our boys have pulled off, and
That's great. Any a program where you get an opportunity to learn leadership, I think it is a great thing. And you don't get that in school per se.
and that's what I tell people. I say, if you're and I, through my wife, I mean, I've certainly and all my kids played sports, with her influence, and there is certainly a value to playing team sports and learning to be part of a team and the discipline and the sticking it out even when you don't want to that sports can engender. Um, and I think absolutely everybody should be in church and have some sort of religious background or foundation or home or something. Um, but I and both of those are vitally important to the nurturing of a person and giving them a foundation. But I've always told people that I feel like scouts we will teach you more leadership than any other organization that you've been in, and it certainly helped me. I mean, I became leaders in other organizations throughout my life, and I attribute a lot of that back to the skills and the knowledge and stuff I picked up in scouts. Our main fundraiser for the Boy Scout troop is a spaghetti supper, and this is kind of ties into the town too. It'll be February 22nd. It's the last Saturday in February. We do takeout plates and we do a dine in at the gym, and we'll serve between 5 and 8 p.m. We'll serve right at 1,000 plates.
Amazing.
When you think a town of what 1,200, 1,400 people, we serve 1,000
Mhm.
plates. That's pretty strong.
Right.
So,
Yep.
so
Well, we like to get together, us people
okay,
in Pine Mountain. You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
We
That's right.
we
And we
like
like to
hanging
eat.
out. Right?
Yep.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
We love the fellowship too. So, all right, I wanted to ask you something else
Okay.
about the building. There's a couple things. One is I
Okay.
know that um I think you inherited the building from your dad. Is that right? He had the farmers market or something.
We actually purchased it. I think it was 2014.
Okay.
Um, and and it was kind of a collaborative thing between the two of us. And he had the Chipley Farmers Market out back because he grew up. I come from a family of tomato farmers in Florida,
Mhm.
and so there's always been agriculture in my background. And so he did that back there, up until he had after a stroke or two, and he got where he just couldn't do it anymore. But
I see.
so, yeah, so we've had the building. We purchased it from Callaway. I think it started off, to the best of my knowledge, as a suit factory. Back in like 1947, I think they built it, and they were making men's suits here. And then
Hmm.
it went through a number of permutations, including I think a poultry watering manufacturer at one point, and then Callaway bought it, and at one point they ran it kind of as a central receiving warehouse, and then they decided that wasn't the best plan, and then they started using it. And I think I shared this story with you before, and I can share it again if you want to, about the trolleys for the Jolly trolleys.
Oh, please tell the
Okay,
story. Yes.
they used to the jolly trolleys that they take the people through on if you don't go through in your own car. They started off as they built these bodies, if you will, these trolley bodies, or somehow they ended up with them. Maybe they bought some, I don't know, but they didn't have like axles and wheels and stuff underneath them. And so, speaking of a collaborative effort, so they strike out with peach farmers down in South Georgia because, of course, peaches aren't being grown this time of year. And the farmers had these like a set of axles that they would pick peaches and load them on this flat car, if you will, out in the peach orchards and then bring them up. And, eventually they'd end up at the packing house. But so what Callaway made arrangements with some of the peach farmers down there where they would bring these trailer, these axle configurations, two axles and a pull, a tongue on it. They'd bring them up here and they would set these bodies on it, these jolly trolley bodies that the people would ride in, and they'd bolt them all down, and then they'd run them. That was what you rode through the original Fantasy and Lights on for years and years and years. And
I
then,
would love to get a picture of that.
so, so
Man,
when we first bought the warehouse, it was still being used for that. And I mean, they had them I mean, you had to turn sideways to walk. So the biggest room was like about 6,000 square feet, and you had to like turn sideways to get in between all these trolley bodies that they had stacked in here. And come October, they'd start bringing these peach wagon things up from South Georgia, and they'd have a little assembly line, and they'd set a body on it, bolt it down, and send it out the door, and set the next one on. And so it was kind of cool. It's kind of a neat use of resources, in my opinion.
yeah. So they would bring the basically the axles
The
up
axles.
here
Mm-hmm.
and then connect it,
Yeah.
use it, and then return it to the
And
peach
then
farmers.
they get
And they
done.
didn't
Yeah,
have a use for it.
exactly. Yeah. So they were happy to
That's
get
perfect.
it. Worked out
Right.
good for everybody. So, but
Yeah, I would love to try to find a photo of that, and I will
I'm sure
see
there's
if I
some
can make
pictures
that happen.
somewhere
I
of it.
bet you there is in the 1993, 1994 Hamilton
Yeah.
Journal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
The
love to see
original
that.
Jolly
But
Trolleys.
I know right now that building, you lend it out to Pocket Change Ministry, which is an amazing food bank for the community, and we have the town Christmas party there. I think Phil and Bruce call it the Willis Ballroom. Is that
Yes,
what
they
they call
do.
it?
Well, and yeah, and a funny story about this, I think we've done that for 3 or 4 years now, where they used to host it when they owned Sweet Home Plantation out off Hadley Road. And when
Mhm.
they sold that and moved to town, so to speak, they needed a place to host the the Christmas party that because they bring toys in for kids that wouldn't have a Christmas otherwise. And so we had a reception here for my daughter who'd gotten married, and they were at that reception, and he was looking at it was really decorated nicely, and he said, would it be possible for us to host? And I said, sure. um Joy, the thing is that we feel like we have been so blessed with this building and this facility and the use of it, and that anything we can do to share that blessing, we want to do. I mean, and so when the food bank, they were out at a church out off Salem Road, and when they started having an issue with a place to have their food bank, I talked to them and said, hey, if y'all need a place, we got a room in the back, you're welcome to use it. And so I guess that might have been 3 or 4 years ago. They've been here, maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. I don't know. It's been a while. And
Yeah.
so
And
they
I
do.
think the whole organization is run by volunteers.
It is.
I
It
mean,
is. It is.
everyone
Yeah,
volunteers their time,
it is. And they have a
and I love
tremendous,
that.
yeah. And I think the last number I heard was maybe 140 or 150 families are receiving a wet box with some refrigerated stuff, a dry box with some dry food, and whatever else they conjure up, and they do it once a
Right.
month. And so you're probably in 250 so actual number of people being impacted, that otherwise would probably not eat as well. So it's
Right.
just a good
Right.
it's just a good my hat is off to them for everything they do. It's a joke about driving a bus that we do a ministry on Sunday nights. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not.
Oh, go tell me. Yeah. Go tell me.
Okay. Where Chance Carlisle actually started this about, I think we figured out it was about 12 years ago or so. And where he started going out to the ball field out on Buttsville and just kind of took a grill out there and started cooking some hot dogs and just kind of ministering to some of the young kids hanging around out there. And he'd play games with them and stuff like that. And so it was kind of weird because it wasn't until about that time that Chance and our lives really intersected. And he's, we're very close friends now. And so we were doing stuff together and this thing was starting to take off. And the Boy Scouts had a van, a 15-passenger van at the time. And he was shuffling kids back and forth some, in his truck. And I said, look, just take the van. I mean, the keys are in it. It's got insurance. I mean, and that's kind of
Right.
my attitude about stuff. Hey, use it. I don't care. So,
Right. Kind of like the peach farmers.
yeah,
Use the
exactly.
axles.
Yeah, exactly. Just take them, man. And
Right.
so he started using the van. Well, then it kind of blew up. I mean, in terms of people, and we had a bus. The scouts also had this little bus, and so he came to me and said, "Hey, man," he said, I'm using the van, but I mean, it's just I've already outgrown it." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay." And he said, "What about the bus?" And I knew what that meant. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, because he was going to need a driver. Okay, and so
Right.
I said, "All right." So we started running the bus, and we pick kids up from all over town. We bring them in. Right now, we're using the First Baptist Church. Kudos to them. Thank you for that, dude. And they're basically from, I don't know, first grade or so up to, high school. Okay. And it's all volunteers. There's probably 7 or 8 different churches that are represented in the volunteer group. They do we do a meal for them, maybe hot dogs or chicken tenders, or last night it was spaghetti, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we do some kind, they'll do some after some kind of fun thing and do some sort of a devotional or Bible lesson. Or, last night we played basketball with them in the gym with the older boys. That's kind of the group that Chance and I look after. But that's kind of a neat thing too. And that's kind of a neat ministry. So
It is.
that happens here in town.
So you just almost created this youth fellowship
Chance did.
from
Yeah.
all, right. From
Okay.
all these organizations, and anybody wants to come, they just sign up.
Yeah,
And
or we'll run the bus every Sunday. And we kind of run around. We pick kids up. We'll have 40 or 50, probably 30, 40, 50 kids on the bus typically. You know what I mean?
it's fantastic.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, so you'll see people. You'll see the bus driving through town on Sunday, and that's what it's doing. So
That's amazing.
it's
I love that. I
it's a
had
lot of
heard
fun.
something about it, but I didn't know the details.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool
Very
thing.
cool.
Yep.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the persons that nominated you, this is Chip I'm talking about.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I love this comment that he made. And it's so worth repeating. You were not originally from here, but you are of Pine Mountain. And I think that is a great way to really honor like what you do for the community, because you have, you donate part of your building, you contribute your time for Boy Scouts, I'm sure you do other volunteer work. And I love this community so much. And there are other people, that contribute also. It's not just it's not a one-man show. It's like
No.
we live in a community where a lot of people help a lot of people.
That's right.
And I love it. So I love Pine Mountain so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you're part of this community. And I thank you so much for being on the show today. And Pine Mountain appreciates everything you do for the community. Again, thanks for being on the show. And I look forward to seeing you around town. John Willis and I spoke more after this interview, and we both talked about how very blessed we are to live in such an amazing small town. Pine Mountain reminds us of Mayberry, and I bet some of you feel the same. Thanks so much, John, for joining me on the show today. Your contributions to our town are such a blessing. Congrats for receiving the well-deserved honor of Citizen of the Year. And special thanks to Silly Bug Studios for the beautiful art and music for the show. Season 2 starts in March. I'll have a new, fun, and enlightening season ready to go in the spring. Hope to see you around town.